Welcome to the Quantum Guide Show, where you will find interesting guests and discussions about cutting-edge topics to assist you on your journey. The Quantum Guide Show is ideally suited to the newly awakened and for those who feel isolated by their newfound beliefs. The mind, body, and spirit thrive when we have a mission, and there is no greater mission than to become the change that we wish to see in the world. So hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube, Odyssey, and Telegram channels, and share this show with your friends. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. I had a wonderful guest lined up for today. Her name is Veda Austin, and she's doing some amazing work with water. But there was a misunderstanding over the time. She's in New Zealand, and I'm in Canada, and we just had daylight savings, and so she won't be able to make it after all today. So I am going to just fill in with some of my own material. You've heard me talk quite a bit about the Quantum Health Transformation Program, and I've introduced the first three steps in detail in previous versions of this show, but I haven't really gotten into anything much after step 5. So I thought today I would actually open up the program and introduce you to step 4. I know it sounds wonky, but I always start at step 9, and that builds a foundation for step 8, and that builds a foundation, and it goes that way. So you always start on step 9 if you can. If you're having trouble with step 9, some people do because they're not really able to think conceptually or abstractly, just move on to step 8 and feel free to send me an email with any questions you might have or any material you would like me to put more detail into for the future and for future shows. So without further ado, I guess I'll give you a little bit of background. So long story short, I had a very profound and ongoing extraterrestrial experience where I went every night to the big ship, but there was a time dilation, so I actually spent more time on the ship than what I was actually away. I know, it's a lot. I'm going to make more videos about it, and there's quite a few videos already on my YouTube channels, and I'm still waiting for Rumble to back up my YouTube channel, but pretty much everything is already on Odyssey, so I really want to recommend that you check out my alternative channels. So YouTube is my alternative channel, but they give me so much grief that Odyssey became my backup channel, and now I have Rumble, which is also another backup channel, so that even if YouTube kicks me off, steals my shows, whatever, they're still available on Odyssey and Rumble. So I'll put some links in the description below. And without further ado, I'm just going to open this up. Oh, sorry, I forgot a piece. So it was roughly around the same time that I was having these extraterrestrial experiences. They just abruptly started, and 3 months later they were done, and that was it. I've had a few sort of etheric experiences with them, but that was pretty much my big ET experience. So anyways, around the same time, I got this download, and it was just like, I just want to tell you folks who don't get downloads, downloads are not an easy thing to cope with. You get them all at once in an instant. And the way I describe it is like having a packet dropped into my brain, and then it unfolds. And then it, gives you all the information. Often it will even create an overlay over my everyday life. So I'll be doing research on the computer, or I'll meet somebody, or I'll hear something, and it all goes to illustrate the information that I've had dropped into my brain. Anyway, it unfolds, it takes time, and it's really quite crazy making for a while, because people around you think you've gone stark raving mad, and you lose your community. But that's a good thing, because I'm going to tell you, solitude is, in my opinion, the fastest way to heal. And that's interesting because when you go to the experts, they say, oh, don't isolate yourself. You got to be around people all the time. No, you don't. And I know I've spent years in isolation. It's done me nothing but good. And as you can see, because if you started watching my podcasts 5, 6, 7 years ago, and you see them today, you're going to see a huge, big difference in the way I look, in the way I present, in the way I'm able to think clearer. Everything has changed for me since I've been doing the work that I was born to do. So anyway, so that's how I got the download. And out of the download, I organized the material and did research if I wanted clarity on things, and put together this 9 steps to quantum health transformation. And it's absolutely free. It won't cost you anything. There's some recommended products you could buy. I don't supply them. I don't make anything off of it. That whole download has been put into a program and given to you for free to use or not use, because you have free will and it's your choice, right? So here we go. We're going to dive back in. I'm going to go to the PDF rather than go to my website this time. And oops, I forgot to screen share. That would help a lot. There we go. That way you can see the information alongside me. Okay, so this is just sort of the opening page where you get a rundown of what the different steps are. And as I told you before, I recommend you start at step 9. I've based this very much on a 9 chakra system. People go, but there's only 7. No, there's a lot more than that. You've got your primary chakras, you've got your secondary chakras, and then you've got your stargates. And your stargates are what enable you to be able to make ET contact, to have experiences with all kinds of beautiful, amazing beings. You call them angels or whatever, but you have initially with your primary 7 chakras, you also have one below your feet that I call black, and you have one over your head, about maybe 10 inches above your head, which I call white. And that's why there's 9 chakras, and each lesson is kind of tied into healing the chakras at the same time. Now, if you don't know what chakras are, please go ahead and do some research, because that's sort of beyond the scope of this lesson. But today we're going to do step 4, blue, which corresponds to the throat chakra, the energy for speaking our truth. But how are you going to speak your truth if you don't know your truth, because you've been so steeped in ideology and propaganda all your life that you've never been exposed to it? So this is where step 4 comes in. And technically, it's part of the detoxification system. So I'm just going to run through them very quickly. So step 9, you learn about how to stop thinking in a dichotomy. Whoops. You learn how to use a nubby ball, so you realize there's infinite possibilities on everything, whether it's north and south, whether it's good and bad, or whether it's black or white, it doesn't matter. Even gender can be illustrated by use of a nubby ball. And anyway, you're going to learn how to use that tool in step 9, and you'll also learn how to use the nubby ball to do your light shadow integration, because we all think we're all good and we're all in the light all the time and we're in love, and no, we're not. We're shitty. Behind the mask, we have all kinds of things that need work and improvement. And even when they're seen as negative, and we all want to run away from it, we all think it's so scary and messy and emotional and all that jazz, but it serves a purpose. So we don't want to get rid of the light body, and we don't want to get rid of the shadow body. We want to integrate them. And when you do that, it's like walking together with a sibling. You don't always get along, but you kind of need the information to have the whole picture and to be all that you are. Then we go into step 8, where you're going to learn all kinds of advanced techniques on grounding. You're going to learn how to develop some new core belief systems and all kinds of technologies that you might not even know are technologies, because they've been found in our natural world throughout all time, really. Step 7 is your male-female integration. So those of you who are not familiar with the concept of yin and yang, also with the chakras, the energies, everything else, the left side of our body is female and the right side is male. And both are valuable and essential for us to be whole beings. And so this lesson will teach you how to make peace and integrate your male and your female information, or I should say sides. But I also get into the whole transgender identity concept, and I give you my take on it so that you can understand a little bit about what's going on today, which is interesting because this was written back in, I don't know, around 2012, 2013, and there was really not much activity in transgender, but it was given to me to put out, and so I've done that. So the first 3 steps, black, red, and orange, are all about opening your mind and becoming a cohesive, integrated, full human being. And then the middle 3 steps, which are 6, 5, and 4, are all about detoxification. So step 6 is all about detoxifying your body. It's actually, this is the biggest lesson of them all because there's like 4 parts to it because it's so much information. But you learn how to detoxify your external self, your internal self, and your emotions, and what products you may be buying and using that are actually killing you so that you can stop using them if you choose to. And I give you some really inexpensive alternatives that you can just make at home that are completely non-toxic and actually do the job better than these products we're buying at the store. So step 5, I get into food. What is food? What is a biologically appropriate diet for human beings? So some people are all pro-carnivore, other people are all pro-raw vegan, and then you got your lacto-ovo vegans and your vegan vegans, and you got your paleos and you got your ketos, and it's crazy making. Well, I've already gone through all that, and so I've been able to fix my health a lot through what I eat. But also, I want in this lesson, I want to teach you about universal love energy, because universal love energy, it comes from the sun, and it's in real food, and it's absent in fake food. So one type of food will make you well, regardless of your ideology around food. And another way of eating, which is the mainstream, is going to kill you, because all it's doing is creating masses of people who are sick and going to the doctor and taking all the pharmaceuticals, and you're making somebody a lot of money, but you're actually paying the price with your life. So it's very serious. This whole program is very serious. But anyway, I don't want to get too serious. So anyway, then there's step 4, which we're going to talk about today. And this is where you're going to learn to this is where you're going to learn how to detoxify from the construct. And the construct we're born into, we don't see it. It's like a fish. If you ask a fish, oh, what's water? They're going to go, I don't know. They've lived their whole life breathing it and swimming in it and eating in it and living in it. They wouldn't even know. Well, the same is true for us. We've been born under slavery, basically, a construct that's limited our behavior and basically doesn't serve us at all. The only people who really benefit are the ultra rich, which I call the parasite class. So then after this level, then you would get into your higher spiritual training. But first you need to open your mind, and then you need, and also you need to get to know yourself. And then you need to detoxify. Now you're a brand new person, because when you detoxify, I got to tell you, every 7 years, every cell in your body's been replaced. And the first 7 years is physical. The second 7 years is emotional. And the third 7 years is spiritual. So if you think you're all that in a bag of chips because you're so spiritual, ask yourself how this could be possible unless you spent 7 years detoxifying the body and building it up, 7 years detoxifying the mind and building it back up, and then 7 years to get spiritual. That's 21 years of your life. So, basically, if you do all of that, that's going to keep you pretty busy, but it'll also keep you on track, and it will also serve you. So that's the basic program. Let's see. Yeah, I already told you that there's all that. Basically, what I want you to know, too, is that this program is not copyrighted. So what I want you to do is to use it, read it, learn from it, practice the parts that you resonate with you, the parts that don't worry about it. But if you're some kind of a healing practitioner, whether you're a wounded healer, whether you've got a master's degree or a PhD in psychology, doesn't matter how much education or how little education you have, you can feel free to bring this program into your practice and share it with other people. I do appreciate it if you would give me credit, because this is, basically I gave birth to this baby, and it also represents the beings who gave me the information. But besides that, use it, share it, and you don't have to call me up and ask me for permission. That's basically it in a nutshell. I have a disclaimer here. It's not that relevant to today's lesson, but I put it in here anyway, just basically letting you know that the video and the information found on my YouTube channel, my website, all of it is just presented as information. So if you've got a problem, you need to seek a health professional, because that's the world we live in. So although we may step outside of the construct is still there and it has rules. So I just recommend that you do all of your research before you purchase anything from me. And as it says at the end here, any product or service mentioned or described in this video or on this channel is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. We recommend that you do your own independent research before purchasing anything. But this program is for free, so don't worry, you don't have to buy anything. But you need to do your own research on everything. So this is step 4, understanding the power of heuristics and speaking your truth. So as I said before, in order to speak your truth, you have to find it. Your truth is that which you have come to believe once you have stepped outside of the socio-economic, political, and I would add religious and military, on, construct, or your socialized programming. Speaking your truth requires a shift in perception and new ways of expressing yourself. One way to step outside of our socio-economic political programming is to consider how we learn on a total perceptual level and get a better understanding of our heuristic patterns. And so I want to show you now sort of the bigger mechanical picture of this. Heuristics literally means learning, discovering, or problem solving by experimental, trial and error methods, and exploratory problem solving techniques that self-educate and allow us to improve performance and evolve based on feedback. So if we're just swallowing everything we're told and everything that's on mainstream TV and probably 90% of what's in the alt media, we're not really testing out the system for ourselves. We're just believing, going, oh yeah, that's how it is. It's a very passive, lazy way of becoming a human being. Instead, if we go out and make mistakes, we learn. I got to tell you, my life is full of mistakes, 67 years of mistakes, but boy, I've learned a lot. I'm not saying I know everything, but I've learned a lot because I get out there and I get my hands dirty, or however you want to call it, your feet dirty. I get in there and I'm very, very good at problem solving. In fact, every problem I have, I see it as an opportunity. So anyway, quantum heuristics is the same thing, but kind of on a higher level. So in short, heuristics is the whole process of taking in and interpreting data and then learning from it. This is how we plot our course through life, and it involves taking in data on a physical level, which would be what you see, what you hear, what you touch, what you smell, what you taste. It also includes the data we take in on a socio-emotional level. So that would include the culturally constructed meaning that we attach to the data and the emotional sensations produced from our perceptions of it, as well as the data we take in on an energetic level. So that's the energy produced from the symbols that form the data. I know this is a bit of a lot to hold in your mind at one point. I've been doing this for a long time, so I kind of get it, but don't worry if you don't 100% understand this, or if you want to go back a little bit and listen to it again, that might be helpful. But basically, what this means is we're constantly taking in data, not just from our five senses, and not just from our emotions, because our emotions and also help us to understand how things are going on around us. And then there's the energetic level. So as I'm going to show you further on in this lesson, even symbols produce energy, the words we choose, all of that is data. And the data we take in and then we learn from it. Now, you may know people who make the same mistake over and over and over again throughout their whole lives, and they never learn anything. And I'm not really sure what that's about. But I know for myself, I make mistakes over and over again, but each time I course correct. So this is one of the superpowers of being an old person. I can look at the whole trail and flow of my life. I can see what worked. I can see what didn't work. I can see what patterns I want to repeat and what patterns I never want to repeat. And then I can course correct in the now, because that's where the power is. And then tomorrow is a better day. And on it goes. And that energy just builds. I know, it's pretty cool. But you never hear about that, do you? About old people having superpowers. We do, because we know how to go through our lives and course correct. So I'm hoping you will learn how to go through your life and course correct at whatever stage you're at. Don't wait till you're old like me. Do it while you're young. And then you got your whole life ahead of you. So speaking of symbols, we do well to consider our self-learning from at least these three perspectives, which form a holistic or a quantum view. Most of our interpretation of the data, what we call reality, comes from patterns of cultural learning based on words, which form standardized, mutually built. I'm going to read that again. Most of our interpretation of the data, what we call reality, we're forming it from the data we're taking in. It comes from patterns of cultural learning that are based on words. So it doesn't matter who you are, even if you are a deaf mute person and use sign language, you're still forming concepts that are sort of universal. So everybody in English might know what a teacup is. In another language, it's called something different. But it's basically so that when we're communicating, we understand what the other person is trying to tell us. That's basically it. So most of our interpretation of the data, what we call reality, comes from patterns of cultural learning based on words, which form standardized, mutually built conscious concepts into a verbal pattern in order to share with others the constructed data, forming what we consider to be shared reality. We get used to thinking within these patterns and learn from our perceived experiences within this shared environment. It is my belief that linguistic relativity and language influence our beliefs, and the use of words affects our perceptions and our patterns of learning. Since all things are connected, we do well to consider our choice of words and the methods of communication that we rely on. Now, this has never been more relevant than today, because what's happened is the people that are sort of running the countries, not all of them, but probably most of them, are changing. They're using words that we understand mean one thing, but the people that are creating this kind of dark magic are actually meaning us harm. So words that mean, it's called doublethink. It's in the book 1984. I'm sure you've all heard of this concept before. So for instance, in the States, they've got this place where you can go and look at every weapon that's ever been used by humans on other humans, every which way you could kill and maim humans. And they call it the Hall of Peace. Okay, you need to wake up to this, because the words they're using when they tell you this is what we're doing, this is how it's going to benefit you, it's not. They're using dark spell casting. I'm going to get into that a little bit later on. I think it's in this lesson. I don't know. It's a lot of information to keep track of, but just consider that. And then the words we use are putting out energy. So if those words have been weaponized, we're putting out dark spell casting without even realizing it. So, all of this is part of our learning process, and nobody's wrong. And it doesn't mean that some of the things that humans do are horrible. They are. But I say they're not wrong because people have free will, and I don't understand their journey. Their journey is personal to them, and it's really none of my business. And you'll learn more about that in step 9. So, since all things are connected, we do well to consider our choice of words and the methods of communication that we rely on. And now I want to talk about the media. And I'm talking not just about mainstream, because there's a lot of crap on alternative media. Holy smokes, a lot of crap. So it's not like, oh, the mainstream media is so good, but everything you learn on YouTube is perfect. No, not at all. In fact, I would say a lot of people are just using whatever material is popular in order to get clicks and earn money. And it's nuts. It's just nuts. So you just want to keep this in mind. You don't want to have to believe everything Karen says, but just keep this stuff in mind and see how you resonate or don't with it. That's all I ask. So since mainstream media is not a reliable source of factual data, its purpose must be sensationalism and a useful propaganda delivery system. Mainstream televised and audio media favors words that either stir up excessive emotion or minimize emotional response altogether. And by doing so, this communication system discourages the use of empathy and compassion, which are skills essential for personal and global health. When television was first introduced to the public, it was a marketing device. The shows attracted the audience for the commercial sale of products. I don't know if you're familiar with soap operas, but in my day, everybody watched soap operas, and they were called soap operas because the show was financed by the soap company. So instead of you just having to deal with annoying commercials, and because your programming is what you really want to see, it's actually the other way around. The programming is the carrot on the stick to lead you to buying products that you probably don't even need. Okay, so the shows attracted the audience for the commercial sale of products, and with few exceptions, for instance, public programming, which I don't even know if they have that anymore. Everything broadcasted on TV and the radio is there to sell you products, concepts, and ideologies. And I would now include the alt media as well. Okay, and even me. I'm influencing you, whether you like it or not, just because you're watching my show. But I do my very best to make that a positive influence, because that's what I want to do. So let me just dive a little deeper into this. Okay, so this was written back, when did I? Oh, this one was updated in 2017, but it was actually created about 2013, let's say 2013. Okay, so things were like 10 years ago. Things were quite different than they are now. But this is even more important, almost as though the whole program was actually written in advance for today. And it's all ready. All you have to do is just, take advantage of it. So getting back into mainstream televised and audio media favors words that either stir up excessive emotion or minimize emotional response altogether. So I'll give you 2 modern examples of this. Stirring up your emotions. Well, all you have to do is turn on TV and your emotions are getting stirred up. Next thing you know, you're mad at white people. Next thing you know, you're mad at gay people. Next thing you know, you're mad at trans people. Next thing you know, you're mad at religious people. It just never ends. And again, it's just splitting us apart, us and them, so that we never come together into our full power and actually fix things and become healthy, happy human beings. So another thing that happens is the shit's hitting the fan every day, sometimes 2-3 times a day. So now the banks have got runs and the banks are all folding. And before that, it was, oh my God, we're all going to die from COVID. Don't take off your mask. And before that, and it just goes on. And it's actually accelerating so that the shit's hitting the fan on every different level several times a day. And what happens is we become numb. Our emotional systems are not meant to handle it. So if you're not doing the steps, the first 3 steps to open your mind, you won't even realize this is happening. If you don't do the detoxification, your body, your mind, your emotions, and your soul are not going to survive the onslaught. This is a self-defense program that's also a bit of a reality hack, okay? So how do you prevent from getting numb? Well, first of all, you limit yourself to exposure to the media. It's the only way. The second thing you do, that also puts you on a dopamine diet, which will do you nothing but good. You'll feel so much better. It'll free up some free time so you can go out and walk in the woods, or you can spend some time just playing with your cat or your dog. You can meditate. There's so many things you can be doing. You can also be starting a YouTube channel and start speaking your truth, especially once you find it, and start helping other people. There's so many things we could be doing. But when we're emotionally burnt out and numb, we don't do anything. We tend to eat more foods that aren't good for us. We lie around too much. We don't get the activity. It just saps your will to live from you. And so there's that. So if it isn't pissing you off and making you angry and dividing us, what it's doing is it is creating an environment. Sorry, I got so much information through my head, and I'm trying to get through it, but I don't want to rush too much because I want you to be able to really get the lesson here. So the other part of it is becoming emotionally numb. So we need to recognize this is happening, first of all, and then we need to do something about it, and that would be called self-love and self-care, so that we can keep functioning and we can keep learning, and we can start developing our own truth. It is important to remember that words carry their own energy, and the energy from years of use by many people. This is why the word love has a similar effect on water crystals, whether it's written or spoken in English, Japanese, Italian, or Mandarin. And for reference, please do check out Dr. Emoto's website to see the amazing, amazing work that he has done. When we use a word which has a similar meaning in any language, it also has a measurable effect on the energetic frequency of our bodies. So, for instance, it provides biofeedback. We can also test this energy through biokinesiology, biofeedback, or even EEG scans. So when we use a word which has a similar meaning in any language, it has a measurable effect on the energetic frequency of our bodies. I would also add to that, in retrospect, the Heart Math Institute. You can do a very simple exercise where you take a coat hanger and you just loosely hold it in your hand. I probably would need to demonstrate it, but you hold it in your hand and you go up to somebody to where their heart is, and then you slowly back away. You have the hook towards the person, and you slowly back away, and your hand is holding the bottom of the coat hanger. And you will notice that as soon as you leave the realm of energetic influence that person's body is emanating or creating, the coat hanger will then move off like a divining rod. So in the Heart Math Institute, they also know that emotions, like if you say hate, 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 your body energy just goes whoop back down. When you go love, 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 and you think loving thoughts, you get heart-brain coherence, as described by Greg Braden, also by, I believe, Dr. Dispenza, and a whole bunch of them are doing all kinds of amazing work with that. So again, my point is that words form concepts, ideas, which shape beliefs, which determine our view of the world, which is our worldview or our perspective, which influences the feedback essential for self-guided learning or evolution. This is heuristics. I wanted to say something else about that. Yes, I had a lot of beliefs in the past. And then I found that when I got more information that was good information, it resonated with me, I'd have to change my belief system. And I found that belief systems are actually a lot of work to deassemble and reassemble. So instead, what I did is I traded that concept in for working theories. So today, my working theory might be one thing, and then I get more information, and then my working theory changes a bit. And my working theory evolves just like we evolve when we're paying attention to our heuristics. And the other thing that's really interesting is what we perceive is real for us. But when we want to change the world, when we want to bring paradise to planet Earth, we need to start thinking new ideas. We start needing to create a perspective where we see what's possible. And we need to be able to take the lessons, because the lessons are not always pleasant, especially if you do the hero's journey or you do the dark night of the soul, which often is a whole part of our emotional, physical, mental and spiritual growth. It's not easy work, but it needs to be done. Just like every once in a while, you got to clean out your fridge. Every once in a while, you got to give your bathroom a total scrub down. Every once in a while, you got to clean out your belly button. Same thing. You need to clean out your belief systems. Enter the law of attraction. So the energy carried by the thoughts, words, and sounds associated with verbal communication and idea conceptualization fuel the law of attraction, which involves elements of both energy and consciousness. I know energy, consciousness, same word, but I've broken it into two just to help you to get the mental picture of what I'm talking about. So everything is energy. Matter is made up of atoms, which are made up of electrons, neutrons, and protons, which are made up of quarks, leptons, gauge bosons, and Higgs or scalar boson particles, etc. When we break everything down to its smaller components, everything has wave-particle duality. They're called wavicles, and is expressed in both mass and energy. So I want to show you, this is one of the PDFs I have for sale on my website. There's $3.99 Canadian, but they come with the link so that you can just click wherever you see it blue, and it will give you the link so that you can actually go to find more research and more examples of other people doing similar kind of work and different proofs and different kinds of evidence for what I'm saying. So I just wanted to throw that out there too. So everything, when it boils down, is neither mass or energy. It's both. It's kind of an amorphous soup, and it's waiting for us and Holy Spirit. If you haven't seen the last show I did on aliens and astrology, it's all about Holy Spirit, prana, chi, grace, and how we can work with that field to super improve our lives and get us where we want to go. Well, that's also carries over to today's lesson. So I really recommend you go back. I'm going to make a note to include that in the links below, okay, so that you can easily find it. I think you'd really, really like it, and it would really complement this lesson. So living beings produce biophotonic energy, which can be seen with Kirlian photography and by measuring the strength of the torus field produced by our physical hearts. So here on the left is an image of a person meditating with, and someone's taken an image of them with Kirlian photography, and it shows their energy. We're leaking light all over the place, but we just don't know it. And you can also go into step 8 and step 5 for more information about the torus field and Kirlian photography and our energetic selves. Many experiments show us that we are transceivers. We transmit and receive energetic information. Recently, scientists have discovered that the spiritual consciousness, which is made up of biophotonic energy, travels faster than the speed of light with an unimaginably high frequency and short wavelength. And it's not the same as brain waves as energy. This is why spiritual consciousness travels outside of time and space. Oh yeah, the picture on the right is from the Heart Math Institute showing the torus field that is generated by our hearts. Okay, so this is why spiritual consciousness travels outside of time and space. So for instance, and it also depends on which chakra we're transmitting and receiving from and to. So the sacral chakra transmits at the speed of light squared. So that's the speed of light times the speed of light. And the crown chakra transmits at the speed of light to the 8th power. So that's the speed of light times the speed of light times the speed of light times the speed of light, and then 4 more times. That's fast. That's faster than anything that our modern science or instruments or technology can even record, at least as far as I know. But that is why prayer is almost instant. And that's why manifestation can happen even the day before we ask for it without realizing it. And we pray for it. We go, well, wait a minute. That came up for me yesterday. This is how prayer is able to travel. And another little juicy tidbit here is my ET friends, when they move the big ship, they don't go from point A to point B. They meditate and they travel, and point A becomes point B. Yeah, it's that spooky and really cool, in what I'm going to call the outer limits, guys. So this is why there are all kinds of things that are much faster than the speed of light. And we're all fixated on the speed of light. Oh, you can't go faster than the speed of... Yes, you can. And remember earlier in this lesson, I talked about we have 3 sets of chakras. So you have your first primary one. Then you have a secondary chakra system that also includes all the gifts of, like, for instance, clairvoyance and telepathy, and I don't know, we can move things with your mind. All of that is all enacted and influenced and enacted through your secondary chakra systems. I have a lesson on that as well. And then the third set of chakras are actually stargates. So you don't have to go to a stargate and go through a stargate to travel somewhere else. You do it internally through the chakra system. I know this probably sounds nuts to you guys, but this is absolutely how I do it and how other people do it and how they do it in other worlds and other places. So think of common written and spoken words as symbols, which carry little packages of consciousness. So if I tell you, oh, I love my dog, I love to sit and pat my dog, you're getting an image in your mind of me patting my dog. I don't actually really have a dog, but and patting it. And so it's like a little packet of conscious information that you get from the words that I use. And we've been taught to think in terms of words constrained by time and space, creating our 3D experience, because that's what our 3D experience actually is. It's energy slowed way down to the point where standing scalar waves can then form, which create the illusion of our physical 3-dimensional reality, when actually everything is all here all at once, including the past and the future and right now. Okay, where was I? So we've been taught to think in terms of words constrained by time and space, creating our 3D experience. But when we use uncommon or sacred written and spoken words, we are transmitting the energy faster than time and space. So that's why spells work and things like that. This is why prayer and authentic desire, visualization without words, are so effective at bringing results. When we are fully present in the now, we transmit with and without words. Spiritual consciousness transmits our desires outside of time and space, and we operate on a whole new level. This is why meditation is so beneficial. While fully present and by living consciously, we operate within the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth dimensions, and even more. So you can really see how, with us being, we go to school and we learn all about, we learn phonetics, and we learn, our language and how to say it a certain way. And then it's supposed to be so we can communicate more effectively. Excuse me. But since words have been weaponized, they're working against us. And the concepts that we're holding in our mind don't have the same power. And so we really need to wake up to this, and we need to think about what we're doing, what we're thinking about, what we believe. And these packets of information that we're sharing each other, they can either build you up or they can tear you down. The body thrives when it has a mission, and there is no greater mission than to become the change we wish to see in the world. Sometimes, though, we need a little help from consultation and support services. Have you discovered that this world is not what you thought it was? Have recent global events awakened you and leave you feeling unsettled? Do you feel isolated with your not-so-popular newfound beliefs? Would you like to learn to thrive in this new state of awareness? It is a big shock to wake up and find that the old familiar world is gone, and it can be disturbing to go down the various rabbit holes only to find that the information is difficult to digest, and few people are willing to talk openly about it. You are not a conspiracy theorist. You are awakening, and once you find your way through it, there are many blessings on the other side. My name is Karen Holton, and I offer vital services that may be just what you need, and support for your journey into the weird and wonderful. Check out my Awakening Support and Ascension consultation, created to support individuals with their chosen alternative realities and lifestyles, health and recovery, and spiritual adventures. For more details, check out the various vital services found on my website, and be assured that I have found personal success with every category featured. My website is www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. That's KarenHolton healthcoach.com. So by living consciously, we listen to our speech and we notice where adjustments are needed, and we self-correct our course. This is one of the many advantages of finding the observer within, or the inner guru. When we shift, our perspective shifts along with our learning outcomes. Think of the process like playing a video game, except with real-life 3D consequences. Actually, since this was written, I've come to understand that our reality is way more like a video game than a lot of us realize. You know, it has real-life consequences, so it does have its own force feedback system. But, and of course, if you die, you don't necessarily come back in this lifetime. You might come back in another one. I don't know. But by living consciously, which means that we're aware of our speech, we're aware of our intentions. We notice, you know, like for instance, I used to call the medical industry healthcare. It's not healthcare, guys. Stop calling it healthcare. It's a medical industry. It's a profit-driven system. I was going to say organization, maybe at the top. I don't know. And all kinds of things, the words we use, and just to show that they're bastardizing the hell out of the language, I received a credit card in the mail, and it has cash back. And I phoned up the credit card and I says, well, how are you supposed to give me cash? You're going to mail me $30 every month? How's this work? Oh, no, it gives you credit on your groceries. I'm going, how is that cash? How is that cash? That's not cash. That should be a credit back system, but they're calling it cash back. And we think, oh, we got cash. No, it's all bullshit. They think we're stupid. We're not. The fact that you're here and listening to this proves that you're probably in the top 1% of humanity as far as awareness goes. Not kidding. It's that sad. Okay, so then I talked a bit about the inner guru. So this is one of the many advantages of finding the observer within. And I call that the inner gurus. When you come to me for help, you go, Karen, you send me an email and you take a look at my services on my website. You send me an email, because I always ask you to send me an email before you pay for a service. And you tell me what you want, what's your problem, what's going on for you. And that way, before you've even paid for it, I'm working on a solution. I'm working on a better way to help you. Then when you go online and you pay for it, then we work out a date. and then we meet on Zoom, and then I help you. But when I'm helping you to find yourself. I'm helping you to find your observer within. I'm helping you find your own inner guru. I'm not going to tell you what to do, and I'm not going to do the work for you, but I will provide you with everything I sincerely can so that you can be as successful as possible. Obviously, it cost me over $10,000 to bring this program to the world. By the time I paid for my website, and there's pay for Zoom, and just never ends. And that's why I often I don't ask for donations. You can give me a donation. That would be great. But what I do ask is that you consider buying either my PDFs or some of my beautiful orgone generators or some of my crystals, or hire me for some time. And in that way, you help to support the work, which I think is super important, especially now. So, so at the same time, the brain learns very quickly. And since it is wellness oriented, we become aware of different options, which were there all along, but we were programmed not to notice them. Your subconscious mind starts to set things up on a physical level to make the energy manifest. It is a team effort. I call it me, myself, and I. This is why living in the now brings about or manifests our desires like magic. More on manifesting and the techniques to stack the energy and to speed up desired outcomes in Quantum Health Transformation Step 3. That's the next lesson after this. So what you can do is, this is a funny story. I'm going to actually stop and tell you about it. Okay, so I met a woman, and I'm not sure exactly what her label is, but let's just say that she was an extraordinary human being, but she was very different from people you're used to being around. Let's just put it that way. Not in a negative way, just I would say she is neurodivergent. Okay, let's just put it that way. And when she was younger, she worked for CSIS, which is like I guess the CIA in Canada, whatever. And she would decode messages that they intercept from other countries so that they could understand what was going on, basically part of the spy program. Anyway, she worked there. She was very, very good at what she did. And then she got completely burnt out. She couldn't do it anymore. And then she turned to a spiritual life. Well, anyway, I was talking to her, and she explained it to me. Unfortunately, I cannot explain it to you the way she explained it to me. But basically, we can look for coincidences, and we can stack them. So I'll give you an example. If just say I want to lose 10 pounds. Well, I can do that, but I can make it happen faster if I go for a walk and, I eat more real food. That's one example. I can get out of debt. How? By stacking coincidences. So what happens is you just happen to meet somebody, they happen to do something, and you go, oh, isn't that interesting? And you end up getting involved in it. And then it turns out that you have some residual income you weren't expecting. You're able to, it doesn't always go in a direct line, but it does definitely happen. So anyway, I teach more about that too. So that's why living in the now brings about or manifests desires like magic. And the other part why you want to live in the now is because you can change the past. I actually have done some lessons on that. You can change the past, but most people can't, don't, whatever, I'm not sure. But basically history is history. But if I spend a lot of time mourning the loss of my mother and wishing my children were little and sweet again, I'm missing out right now where the magic is. And if I keep thinking that in order to manifest, I have to create these castles in the sky and these great outcomes in my imagination, I'm daydreaming about it all the time, that doesn't work either, because you need to do it in the now. It has to happen in the now for it to actually work, because the only thing that exists is the now. And that's just the way it is. So it comes back to using our courage to step outside of our comfort zones and to grasp a quantum reality and all of its benefits. And again, go back to Quantum Health Transformation Step 9 to learn more about this technique. And I want to say something about quantum physics. Quantum physics is ruled by theoretical scientists and experimental scientists, but they would progress so much faster if they included the practical scientists called experiencers, who are adept at applying the principles of quantum physics in real-life applications. Trinities always produce better results than binary systems. So, for instance, what I've said here is there are people who are what they call practical scientists. They get into practical quantum physics. And then there's the experimental scientists who rely less on theory, and they actually will do out the math to see if it's all plausible and possible and all that other jazz. But they leave out the experiencers. So, for instance, if I was involved in any kind of a reality experiment or quantum physics, I would want a theoretical scientist to be there. I would want an experimental scientist to be there, and I would like to be there too, because I've changed the past. I have brought about changes in my life I never dreamed possible. The home that I'm living in now, how that came to be, how I was able to do all this, I've just had so many miracles happen in my life that can't be explained. So that, because I'm used to doing that and I do it almost naturally, should be taken into the equation. And then we'd really, really understand, I think, quantum physics a lot better. So here are some common examples of heuristics in motion. So I've talked about everything so far from sort of a theoretical perspective. And now I want to bring it home to you. Gossiping and spreading rumors sends out, adds to, and intensifies energy, which always has an effect on the target and the senders. Currently, and many years ago, people of all nations used words along with amplifiers like sacred objects or crystals, herbs, to send energy to targets. Depending on the intention of the sender, the outcome can be negative or positive. If the intention of the sender is negative, it's called gossip, rumor spreading, or dark spell casting. And if the intention of the sender is positive, then it is called shamanism, Reiki, or intending blessings, well wishes, and love. So the intention absolutely sets the spin to the energy that's going out. And I'll give you an example. I know someone who considers himself to be very spiritually evolved, very knowledgeable about all kinds of spirituality, and sets himself up as a great teacher. And then one day I'm texting back and forth, and all of a sudden he breaks into this tirade about how he hates this person who he's never met. But he hates this person. He doesn't say, I hate this person. He's going, and he just goes on a tirade, just shredding this person. And I felt sick, and I just, refused to participate in the conversation. So what that person was doing, it's not like this person has to be perfect. That's not the point. But the point is as an illustration, this is how gossiping and spreading rumors sends out and intensifies energy, and it always has an effect on the person. So the target, or the person that my friend was talking about, would have a negative effect from that. It could be a whole lot of different ways that it has a negative effect, even to the point where if my friend convinced me that person was a bad person, I would stop watching their YouTube videos and I wouldn't support them anymore, right? And that happens a lot in modern society. So the other thing too is people who gossip and they don't even know the whole facts, and they're running and telling everybody and spreading rumors. That is dark spell casting, and it has to stop if we want to change our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual realities. It's not good. Now, lots of people fall into it from time to time, and they're working on it, and they're working on their program, and that's okay. I'm not saying you're bad if you do some dark spell casting. I've done dark spell casting inadvertently on myself, holding myself back from health and life and all the things that I deserve. And so it also has a negative effect when you do that on you, the person who's sending it out. So you may, if you're familiar with any of Wicca or any of the pagan sort of spiritual belief systems, if you send an intention out to somebody, it's going to come back 3 times. Sometimes they say 4, sometimes they say 7, but it always comes back and ricochets and hurts the person who's sending it out, always, because that's how energy works. And as far as positive, when you pray for people, when you wish them well and you mean it, when you think about how much you love them, now you're doing some amazing healing work, and it's often called shamanism, Reiki. It can't hurt. All it does is heal. And it doesn't just heal the person we're sending it out to, it also heals us. So this is so important, and this is being missed by so many people. And I think we could all benefit from this lesson. So words and symbols form concepts of harm or health, which when directed at others provide outcomes, which is cause and effect. And that provides learning and a strengthening of our belief systems, because every time we get confirmation of our belief system, it strengthens it. So if we think that person's a horrible person and we don't like them and we're not going to have anything to do with them, and and we have a really angry intention or some kind of negative intention towards them, we're still having a cause and effect, and it's still providing us learning, and it may be strengthening the wrong kind of belief systems. I know of people who are very large. In fact, they would be considered morbidly obese. They're beautiful people. They work hard. They outperform all the other skinny people I know. But when people look at them, they assume they're fat and lazy. And they don't invite them to their parties, and they don't want them around because they're fat and lazy. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of, and it's complete bullshit, absolute complete bullshit. But that's what some people believe. And it is holding back other people, and it's holding back the sender. So I think I've delved on that enough. Self-education and improved performance is the end result. That's what we're going for. We're not trying to say some people are horrible and they shouldn't do that. I'm just saying, until you see it and you see it yourself, it's really difficult to move on. So another good example is something in sociology, which we call cultural capital. So people of elevated status or with old money wealth, and also con artists, follow certain traditions of speech, which are words and pronunciations, which produce specific conceptual belief systems, like, for instance, entitlement. And these, along with other factors like appearance and display of prestige items, form a calling card or identifying marker, gaining them access to experiences that the majority of us do not get the opportunity to participate in. And again, I'm going to bring that back to our modern time and give you a prime example. What about all those people that are meeting at Davos, right? They're telling us we're bad and we're wicked and we're killing the planet because we drive a car to the grocery store. Meanwhile, they've got private jets flying in, they got all their prestige symbols, their prestige everything, and it's a very exclusive club, and we're not invited. Okay, take that another step further. If somebody, like even myself, walked into Davos, if I don't have the cultural capital, they're going to throw me out before I even make it inside the door. What is cultural capital? Again, it's stuff that makes it look like we're better than everyone else. So it's prestige symbols like the jets, the big chauffeur-driven cars, the $1,000 suits, the watch. I don't even know what the brand would be that cost, $50,000. Those are prestige items, and they give off, they're symbols, and they give off, I'm worthy, I should be here. So if I walked into Davos and I did the right kind of, literally, it even comes down to that. If I walked properly, held myself with the right way, had the right prestige symbols, they would probably let me in. They may not let me sit on all meetings or make decisions, but I'm just saying I would look like I belonged, right? But if I go in there and I'm wearing my Walmart pants, my thrift store t-shirt, no, not even going to make it. So the same thing goes with speech. They have ways of talking. I went to university for 5 years. I ended up with a diploma in women's studies, which is a pretty beefy diploma. It takes 2 full years to get that. And then I got my degree in social work. I got my certificate up behind me. And that took me another 3 years. It was an intensive course, a lot of work. It was anti-oppressive practice, was fantastic. But I noticed in the last year, they sort of moved us into using language that wasn't common. And so by the time you graduate with your degree, you have a vocabulary that your neighbors don't have. You have a vocabulary that poor people don't have. And it tells everybody that you're a professional. I call it virtue signaling. So when I got out of university, I refused to use the professional language. And guess what? None of my peers recognized me. None of the employers would hire me because I didn't pass myself off as a professional. Well, I've done anti-poverty and social justice work most of my life. And I know that's all bullshit and I'm not participating in it. So yeah, I paid the price, didn't I, by not doing it? But I'm just using this as an example to show you that there are all other lots of ways that we can do dark spell casting, that we could be doing positive work. But if you don't recognize what's going on, how are you gonna course correct? So this phenomenon also has a similar energetic effect. So, I can remember even at one time, this is probably too much information, I'm going to tell you anyway. At one point in my life, I had a very badly botched surgery and I had extensive brain injuries. I couldn't work. I didn't have money. And the welfare system's insane, like $500 a month Canadian, which is like $350 a month American, right? You're supposed to go live on that. And no one would hire me because I couldn't really make sense when I spoke. I really had to do a lot of healing. Okay. So that was what was going on for me. So I had no choice but to hang out down at the dumpsters, down at the outdoor malls, and people who were kind enough to give me their beer cans and their beer bottles and their wine bottles. It was incredibly hard work that paid about maybe $5 a day, because you only get 5 cents for a wine bottle. And look at how much 100 wine bottles. You can't carry that. Like poor people who have no idea how the rest of the world live, and how I have it is much better and easier than a lot of people in a lot of the rest of the world. So I'm not complaining. But anyway, getting on with my story. Here I am sitting down there, and it was humiliating, absolutely humiliating, but I learned so much because I watched people and the way they walked and the way they talked and the way they carried themselves and what they owned. And it was just a tremendous learning experience. Now, Karen, where were you going with this? I'm sorry, I don't remember. But it was interesting to see the people that really looked at me with disgust and really thought I was a horrible thing. And it was really difficult to have the energy from that constantly washing over me. And believe me, there's about maybe 50 people who are unkind to one or two who are kind. And I can remember a little boy coming in. He made sure I saw him put all the beer cans are the lightest and they pay 10 cents, right? So they're the most valuable to us. Throwing them in the dumpster, knowing that I would never get them, and just looking at me like I was the worst filth he'd ever seen. Why? Because I had a botched surgery and I had some extensive brain damage. But yeah, it's fucked up. It's all fucked up. Pardon my language, but sorry, not sorry. So again, words, symbols form concepts of entitlement, which are directed at others, providing outcomes, which are cause and effect, which provide learning and a strengthening of belief systems. Self-education and improved performance is the end result. So I'm living proof that you can and you do live through adversity, and that everybody's life is full of good times and bad times and shitty stuff, but it's what we do with it. Do we use our horrible circumstances as opportunities to have a different kind of life? And I never stopped believing, and I never stopped trying. And I have the best life now I never dreamed possible. So great. And because of the way I am, things have shifted for my grown offspring and their children. It's just the most beautiful thing. So anyway, go ahead, try this stuff, guys. You're going to love it. So, yeah, and this is also about me. I guess I should have waited to tell that story, but my final example is the classic rags to riches story. And it's more currently known as the I was sad but found out what makes me happy story. So to write your own version of this story, you simply pick a new, uncharted, but thought out point on your nubby ball. So I'll just give you a little example. You at one point, what I did is I took success at one point and unsuccessful at the other point, and I decided where I actually wanted to be on my nubby ball. And then I actually did a really cool thing where I shifted realities. I purposefully shifted realities. And within a fairly short time, like we're talking 2-3 years, but within a very short time, I ended up with just some amazing results. So anyway, so you pick, a new, uncharted, but well thought out point on your nubby ball, which basically is the destination. What do you want? What do you want? And then you watch for the resulting changes in your in perception as they unfold as they unfold in time. So at first you'll need to keep bringing yourself back to the new routine. So you're going to have to, because you want that goal, you believe it's real, you can have it. Now you need to change your thought patterns. Instead of thinking, oh, I don't have that goal, you need to start thinking, oh, I'm excited, I've got this goal, it's coming, right? You need to change your vocabulary. Instead of always using words that indicate you don't have, you start using words that indicate that you do have. And it's really challenging. And you also need to work on your belief systems. And I would trade them in for working theories. That's what I would do. That's what I did. And it sure made me happier. And it's a lot less effort. So you need to keep, sort of course correcting every time you catch yourself. And again, you have to be present. You have to be in the now to be able to do that. But soon you'll be able to see the patterns in experiences and plot the future by fine-tuning your desires. So what I mean by that, fine-tuning your desires, examples would be your thought patterns and your beliefs. And you also want to fine-tune your actions, which could be your vocabulary or your choices. So I'll give you an example. At one point, the doctor told me I had cancer. I had to go in and have chemotherapy, radiation. I had to see a surgeon. There's long wait lists. I had to get me going on all these protocols right away. I walked out of there and I went, oh, I'm not doing that. That's way too stressful. So I prayed to universal consciousness. And I said, how about if I make you a deal? How about if I float it out there that I have cancer and I don't have cancer, kind of like Schrodinger's cat? And I'm going to leave it up to you as to whether I get cancer or not, whether I live or die, because that doctor can't tell me whether I'm going to live or I'm going to die. That's bullshit. That's between you and me. So what I did was I opened up my heart to some natural inclinations and directions that started coming to me, and I started following that direction. 3 months later, I actually kept the appointment to see the surgeon, and he was mystified. I had no symptoms. I had very obvious physical symptoms before. They were gone, all gone. He says, there's nothing to operate on you for. You're good. And he sent me away. So there's an example but I had to constantly work on my internal environment, because the first thing I thought of, I know this is going to sound sick and twisted, I'm just being honest. The first thing I thought of is, wow, if I tell everybody I have cancer, they're going to be nice to me. My family won't be persecuting me. I'll get rides everywhere. I'll probably get more money. Oh boy, I could have all these things if I have cancer. And I went, whoa, Nellie, no. So here I'm running around with these cancer symptoms, right? Completely relying on spirit. And I had to pretend I was a well person. That was really hard. So when people ask me how I am, oh, I'm fine. Not telling my family, not telling my friends, not telling anybody. Well, I worked on my program. And then afterwards, when I was better, they didn't believe me, but that's okay. It's another story. But you see what I mean? So I had to work on what I believed and what I wanted. I had to look at it very analytically, and I had to become aware of some parts within me that needed work. What the hell was going on with me that I needed that kind of attention? No, thank you. So Yeah. So anyway, basically self-education improves performance in the end result and your goals are met. And that's why I'm sitting here making this video today. Soon we find ourselves in a flexible groove of perspective, and we can reflect on our truths and see how they evolve from fresh experiences. And once we get to know our truths, we can throw some out. We can look for some new ones. We can share them with others, giving a voice to the global shift each one of us contributes to. Now, everything changes as we become the change we want to see in the world. In my experience, this process is true for attaining better health, wisdom, and wealth, and I also believe it works in that order. First, you fix the self, then you learn and you gain wisdom, and the wealth just naturally follows. So find your truth and express it however you want. Words are only one form of communication. I use the Nubby Ball tool. The Nubby Ball as a tool to share the context of what I am saying regarding heuristics and speaking our truths. Some of this step 4 primer requires abstract thinking, and if this is a stretch for you, use a physical ball or a picture of a sphere to help you get started, and review the step 9 primer and live videos for technique. And by the way, the Nubby Ball tool is also known as quantum field holography. That's right, that's what it's called. When you use a Nubby Ball with infinite possibilities and you chart where you might be on that ball and you chart where you're going on that ball, you're actually creating a quantum field, and you're adding to the holography, which is what our universe and certainly our planet and our lives run on. Yeah, I don't believe in flat earth and I don't believe in global earth. Well, I actually believe in both because I believe it's holographic. And I think depending on how we view it, we're seeing it from different angles. So that's, oops, there's more, sorry. So once you recognize your own patterns, feel free to experiment and choose some new patterns until you find ones that resonate with your desires. Along with an evolution in thinking comes a shift in perception and new ways of looking at things. You will discover options that were there all along, and your mind forms new neural pathways as you learn. This facilitates a refining process that leads to happiness and the attaining of your desires. Now you can experience the power of heuristics and speak your truth with amazing outcomes. And yeah, I really recommend you go to my website and you watch the videos. They're all a little bit different. They're all a little bit the same, but this information is not really that easy to just grasp. I mean, it came to me from a download, and then I had these high abstract concepts, and then I had to downstep them into common language and that other people could understand. And this was about as far as I could get it to make it understandable and still, you know, carry the information that I needed to share. Yeah, so please feel free to contact me for more information or if you want assistance with your wellness program. And I'm very grateful for all the forces that have helped me with the production of this course. And again, if you want to support my work, please do go to my website and order one of my beautiful orgone generators. And just so you know, these orgone generators were made by a friend of mine, and he's not making them anymore. I have another friend that I could rely on, but I'm going to wait until I sell off my current stock. And, you know, I only have like 3 of these and 4 of those and maybe 5 of those left. And when they're gone, then I'm not sure if I'm going to keep doing this because it might be time for something different, right? I also want to branch off, and I grow medicinal herbs, and they're grown in my beautiful pristine meadow out back, and like dandelion heads, and I dehydrate them slowly so that they're still very bioavailable, and they're just ever so healthy. And I'd like to start getting some of those things on my website to help people out as well. But that's about it for this lesson today. And I want to thank you very much for joining me. I'll be rebooking Veda in the future. I'm not sure when, but she'll be coming back again soon. Next week, I'm going to have the very lovely Aurora Seraphine back. We're going to talk about food. I want to talk about all my issues that I've had with food. And I think a lot of it you'll be able to relate to, because there's a lot of emotional discontent that's kind of coming from the gut. And your serotonin is produced in the gut. The gut's so, so important. So food isn't just to give you energy, and it certainly was never really meant to be what I would call entertainment, although a lot of people use it for that. But food is medicine. Food heals us. Food feeds the critters, because we have a symbiotic relationship with the critters that live in our digestive tract. Food feeds them. So what are we feeding them? So that they can give us the serotonin and things we need so we can think clearly and be happy. There's so much we can do, and it's really not that hard. It's just basically about making some changes, basically deciding what we want, and then making some changes, small baby steps. And that's a harm reduction program. And I learned that at university when I was training to work with people who were substance use. So what's a proper? I don't know what all the proper words are anymore. Politically correct words are anymore. So forgive me for stumbling with some of these words. It's basically the words I would use to describe it, which are no longer necessarily appropriate. So I have to shift my language, and it's bullshit. But anyway, more of that, I guess, on another lesson. But getting tired. Okay, guys. So thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you. Without you, I wouldn't even have a show. So, and I do appreciate those of you who've bought my services, and those of you who have bought my PDFs, and those of you who've bought my beautiful orgone generators. And I love when you send me the letters and you tell me, Karen, I love my orgone generators so much. I love them. They're beautiful. They're so well made. And I notice such a difference. And for those of you who don't know, I'll just tell you quickly, orgone generators are crystals in a resin matrix, and the resin, when it cures, it shrinks, and it puts permanent pressure on the crystals. And you also see layers of metals in here. This one here also has I don't know, hold it up, see if you can see it. It has I use AAA clear quartz spikes in the top, but you may not even be able to see them. You'll see the wire wrapped around it. You might not even be able to see it because it's such high quality quartz. Okay. Then I got layers of metal. Anyway, what these are doing is, because the crystals are under pressure, they become piezoelectric, and they become energetically charged with a negative and a positive on the ends of the pieces of the crystal. And then what they're doing is they're pulling out 0 point energy and tuning it to the frequencies of the crystals. This here has all the crystals for the different chakras. And then I put a symbol on it because that's the intention that also helps influence the orgone energy, which is also known as chi, prana, grace, Holy Spirit. And then when it absorbs in the bottom and it comes out the top. So if I had Kirlian photography, you would see this amazing stream or plume of energy. And I've got some videos about how they work, some technical videos with pictures and everything too. So please do check out my website. Probably coming up to 400 videos now, or my YouTube channel or my Telegram. Anyway, I love you all so much. It means everything to me to be able to get this information out to you. And I'm hoping very much that you will like it, share it. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And please do go over and subscribe to me on Rumble and also on Odyssey. I'd really appreciate it. And I would like to build up those channels, because as the world has more censorship and more control over information, I don't know how long I'll be on YouTube. So I want you to be able to find me. It's really important to me. So I love you so much. I hope you have the best week ever. And we'll see you next week on the Quantum Guide Show. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube, Odyssey, and Telegram channels. Like this video and share it with your friends. You can also find the Quantum Guide Show and my other podcast called Aliens and Astrology on the Forbidden Knowledge News Network. That's www.forbiddenknowledge.news. And while you're at it, check out my website, www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com, where you will find some amazing products and services and an abundance of free resources to help you with your journey. All of the links are in the description below. And in the meantime, until we see you next week, keep up the good work.
Splendor in endlessness puts all my inner strife to rest. For time gives birth to hurriedness. It all makes sense, well, more or less. And the sages put me to their test. With heart and soul, I do my best to find the answers to my quest. I wonder and I